Hello and welcome to Fundamental Forest, the series in which we take the skills that you have acquired through scenario play and bring them into the fantastic world of Open Sandbox Rollercoaster Tycoon, where we let our imaginations run wild. That is right, we don't use any fancy hacking, we don't use fancy plugins, we only try and leverage those fundamental skills. This episode is the conclusion to the DKMP Ride Creation Contest saga. That is right, the contest is now over. Should we take a look at how we did? Honestly, guys, this is so heartening to see for not just me, but for the whole, the concept of this series. I feel like how we did in this contest is a real testament to the power of what we're talking about. First of all, here's Dirklink, clout chasing, using our ride as the thumbnail. How dare he? Trying to piggyback off our success. No, we love you, Dirklink. You can use anything from our stuff. Every part of this process has been deeply flattering for me to come into this new community and to be welcomed so much by you guys. I know I've been posting my videos over there and stuff like that, but I've not been involved in this way. So to see everybody just rally around me like they do with any new person, even if you're a very, very new builder. I think that it was a big month for getting new builders in this month, so maybe next month is the month for you guys. I strongly recommend getting in there. It was so much fun. But should we see how we placed? Let's have a look. We placed 5th place with a score of 8.35, and there's a universe in which we possibly could have got 4th. But this one by Carp Runner and In Error Predicting a Fault was I really liked this one. The surroundings were incredible. As you can kind of see from this little thumbnail, you can see some really, really detailed stuff. You're thinking, how did they do that? And that is something that you're gonna think when looking at a lot of the highly scored ones. You're going to be thinking, how on earth did they achieve that? But conversely, I think a lot of people were thinking the same thing to do with mine. They're probably looking at it and going, how did he do this without hacking? And getting 5th place, guys, feels like getting 1st place to me. I know that I said to my friends on Discord, if I get 5th place in this competition, I will feel as though I've got 1st place. 5th place is going to be my 1st place. And that might sound a bit funny, because surely 1st place is 1st place. And I guess there's a lesson in there about managing your expectations first and foremost. Because let's face it, not everybody can join a community and a contest for the first time and get 1st place. Some people do, don't get me wrong, it's not impossible at all. But for most people, that's going to be a learning experience for them, isn't it? Seeing what people's standards are, especially when it's subjective. I was in some ways quite surprised by people's feedback on my park, which was really enlightening for me. And also, these guys are incredibly good builders. And we are building in a limited rule set. So that means some stuff that we can use to improve our park, we don't have access to because we're building in the Fundamental Forest rule set, which is a restricted rule set. We can all agree on that. It's really fun, it really helps with creativity. There's so many good things about it, but what it isn't is complete in that way. It doesn't let us use everything. So the guys who have every single rule available to them are obviously going to have a huge advantage. So if I said, I'm going to get 1st place with this, that is almost superhuman, isn't it? It would be like, I'm going to win the Olympic sprint, but I'm only allowed to use one leg. So this episode is going to be all about how we took it from an incomplete state to the state in which we won 5th place in this contest. There's going to be a lot of time-lapse bits in this one because I didn't have a lot of time and I had a lot to build, so I speed up the footage and I do post-commentary to varying levels of success. So with that being said, I'd like to thank you guys so much for your likes, your comments, your subscribes. When you like, when you comment, when you subscribe, it shows YouTube that this video, this series, this channel is worth tuning into. It shows it to more people, and in turn it helps grow the community. And what do we want more than more people joining in with all the fun stuff we get to do here? So thank you guys so much. I really appreciate all the comments. It really makes this stuff worthwhile seeing you guys enjoy it. And thank you to everybody over at DKMP for making my first contest over there such an enjoyable experience. I really appreciate everything every member did over there for me, be it just voting on my thing, checking it out and giving it a number feedback, be it high or low. I don't care. What I appreciate is that you looked through it and you gave your honest opinion on it. I really thank you guys so much. So this is the video of how we made this happen and how you can do it too. I think one of the best things about building for this series and getting in a really bad place is it genuinely helps remind me what I need to do to make something good. So I got myself in a bit of a tizzy. I was building stuff last week, as we saw, and I wasn't really happy with it. I was happy that I had built something, but I wasn't really content with what I'd built. And I was heading out a few days ago, but a thought came into my head before I was heading out, and I just wrote down in capital letters, underlined, establish a voice. So what does that mean? So when I was building this, I was sort of just building anything. It was just sort of I had to build something. And I said that in the episode, didn't I? I said I was just building to build and hoping I was finding it along the way. And that's all well and good. There's nothing wrong with that at all. But a tip for helping to get there quicker is making yourself a palette that you can then basically copy and paste across the whole thing. And just this idea of layering colours on each other like this. And then I just came into the game and started just mucking around. I just started iterating upon the idea, and I'm really liking these pieces and just this nice little texture that it's got stacked over here. And that has led me to, are you ready for the big reveal? This. And I'm really happy with how this is looking right now. And I'm only really happy with it now that I'm coming back into the game after having left it alone, gone and done some other stuff and come back to it now. Because you'll no doubt remember last week there was a building here, but it wasn't much of anything and it just wasn't hitting. And this is a super simple building. And it took a minute to get to this position here. Maybe I should have took some screenshots or made new saves. That's a note for builder me from video producer me. Do me some favors next time. But I'll just come in and try and replicate how it was before. So let's just delete all of this. Don't worry, I've made another save. I'm going to demonstrate what it was like earlier. So I'd iterated for a while and I'd got the form to a place where I was like, I'm happy with that form, but why isn't it hitting? And then I just realized it's so cold. Look at that, it's so cold. Try and ignore this green that's here. If we just look at this, right? This building just seems icy, doesn't it? It's just not got that pop of colour, and it wasn't until I built this building here, which is a pretty awkward shape, but I feel like it's done pretty well with what's there, that I realised it needs this blue to pop that. And look at that, it needed this little tree as well that I planted here just to give it a bit of warmth and a bit of context as well. The great thing about trees is that they give things a bit of rooting, if you'll pardon the pun, that sort of cements them in place and lets you think, oh, this is lived in. And getting some trees in is a huge life hack for getting yourself established in a place. For me, and I know a lot of other people as well, getting that foliage in is often the last piece of the puzzle. So don't be afraid to get that last piece of the puzzle in a bit quicker. There's nothing wrong with that. That foliage is like gluing everything in place for some reason. I also zhuzhed up this queue. I added a cover in here and out here as well. I'm sometimes a little scared to use this dark foliage because it doesn't pop in quite the same way as the more saturated green, but sometimes you gotta be brave. I did a dark exit path along here, then you get this payoff as you come down from here and you see what you just overcame. And it's that same idea. If you don't ride the ride, you don't get the benefit from having the exit path be such a cool view. It's a unique view. So it gives double the incentive to go on the ride. Maybe the debates going on here that are clogging up the flow of guests are about that. One brother's telling another brother, You've got to get on, because the exit path is simply divine, brother. And the other brother says, but I may vomit, brother. And the other brother says unto that brother, there's a first aid station once you get past that path, so you can bask in the glory and then get your nausea treated. What more could you ask for, brother? And then the other brother says, I will overcome my fear, brother, for you. You have inspired me my entire life. That's a beautiful story. It's a beautiful story told beautifully. Trademark 2025. But now we have established a voice. This is how we're going to be doing it. We can quickly follow that template and make something that's in keeping with our theme, in keeping with what we have already established. Something that's quick, effective, good enough, which is oftentimes what you want from a competition at this stage, and something we can be proud of. Something that's important to establish is that if we go over to this other, supporting ride, this is another major ride, right? A simple thing we can do when we copy and paste this, we just change the accent color. So imagine this, but over there. But instead of having the blue, it's got the red over there. And already that's got a completely different vibe, doesn't it? I also set up this little area to test out entrance monuments, an eye-catching moment to let you know where the beginning of the queue is. But I had an idea that I liked on the first try, so now there's just these lonely, undecorated versions over here. But this is a really, really good tip, guys, because being over in the environment can suffocate you a bit. And I don't think if I tried this over here I would have liked it, because I had the idea that it was going to be a building. You walk through a building first. But coming over here to this neutral environment, I tried this out and I thought, you know what, I'm going to try it over there. I'm so glad I did, because it gave me a completely different understanding of what I wanted to do with the space. And it being a neutral place helped me to imagine more things. So there's definitely a mix of both. You want to build in situ, like in the place where it's going to end up, but also free of distractions as well if you're feeling yourself a bit uninspired. Combining all of these tips are what makes a well-rounded builder, in my opinion. Alrighty, I've been working hard. Or have I been hardly working? It really is difficult to tell at this point. The fact of the matter is I really locked in, and thank goodness for that, because it was beginning to get a little bit scary. I thought I wasn't going to be able to have a good plan for what I was going to do with this section, and it was just going to be a big disaster, and I think disaster has been averted. This particular shot is looking real good, but it took a long time for it to rumble out in the way that it did. I've had to develop the area quite a lot. I know that I had this entire hill. Now I don't know whether in universe this hill is artificial, like they moved all the dirt there, or that it's real and they carved this path through and they've integrated this building into the landscape. Either way, I've added this in because the little sort of bay that I was imagining maybe the queue beginning in this part here, it just wasn't working with how the drop was set up. The drop was really getting in the way because it needed to have something maybe significant there, but you couldn't do it with how the path was placed, but we couldn't really move where the path was because it was forming this significant line through this way. So what I did instead was I've reduced the significance of this particular part by raising this land instead of having like a curve of a building coming around here. And what it also did was facilitate this feature coming over the top of this area. Now this is going to be the exit path through here, which I think is a really cool exit path, but then I moved the queue over to here instead, so now we can have like a significant moment over here. But maybe I can move it a bit more this way and sort of cut away at the corner of this a little bit. I think I wanted to have this like poke out a little bit to break this line up, but I think we can break this line up a little bit simpler. What we should do is we should save. Whoa, and if we just come in with the land tool, big recommend to being quite cavalier with the land tool because it will get you desirable results, I think. Or maybe we should move this out just a smidgen. What we should do is we should just be a bit brutal with this and just go get rid of that to really sort of neutralize our perception of the situation. And then from this angle you could maybe, as you're walking along here, you can see, oh, that's the entrance there. Maybe just not have it go as in as all that, and instead do something that's a bit like this. And I think I wanted to, for a little bit of this to be like a show building. Like a little bit of theatre. A little bit of theatre before the show really begins. So we currently have nearly precisely 5 days remaining, and that may seem like a lot of days, but the fact of the matter is that I have things to do. I have a vision of this being visible across here and that being the main sort of draw over in this direction, but don't we need a draw from the direction that it's like the queue is from? Because we're gonna have the queue like over here, surely. Then we get a bit of drama going like that. Now we're talking. Now the queue is drawing height, but how do we draw in crowds from back here? That's the thing. How do we get them from over here? Have I told you guys I've got my new mouse and it feels really strange to use? And I think I have a vision of having like a backdrop along here. And that's what's sort of wigging me out, because I want this to be... It's almost like I'm doing it backwards, you know what I mean? I want this to be visible from here, whereas ordinarily you'd want it to be visible from here, but maybe this being visible from here actually does it more favors. I think we'll take that risk, and people can say, oh, but you can't see the flat ride from the place where you're getting on it, which is usually a no-no, right? But I think maybe for our purposes it works better for us in the sort of macro of the whole thing, or at least that's what I'm telling myself. Here we go, we're doing a time lapse. This is going to be very Brian coded. I don't really have a Brian Andrelzik impression, and I don't want to try because I don't want to do multiple takes of this. But here we are, we're building on Cersei's cauldron. I don't think I have yet spelled cauldron right. Or maybe I have. Yeah, maybe I have. So we're doing a time lapse, guys. There's just so much footage that we've got to get through. You can see here, this isn't sped up, by the way. This is how quick I build. So if you're wondering how I get a video out every week, this is how I build 1,000% quicker than a normal person. Don't look at the cars moving quickly. Well, because I build so quickly, I have to make the cars go more quickly, otherwise I get, like, disorientated, you know what I mean? Which, incidentally, is the way that the British say disoriented in America. That's what you guys sound like. But here we go. I'll stop alienating my audience and start talking about what I'm doing. I'm putting some windows on a building here, and I'm trying to figure out, like, how to best, how do you say it, kind of like, you don't just stop at building the thing, there's a way you contextualize the thing, because you can have a big flat wall there, but that's difficult to sell. So if you put like a canopy over it, suddenly you are selling that surface much better. And then I suddenly remember that it's pretty important to have a station for the ride, and I've left that till pretty late in the process, so I should probably get started on it sooner rather than later, so that's what I do. And I'm just trying to figure out how to make it look good, which is most of the process in Roller Coaster Tycoon. How do we make it look good? Not like that. Delete it. I'm not as experienced with commentating time-lapse, obviously. Oh, also, yeah, I guess this is a good time to mention, because this was a speed build, so to speak, I suppose there's nothing in the Fundamental Forest rule set which means I can't do things which are normally legal to do in Fundamental Forest, but do them using Tile Inspector. So if I just want to have lots of benches on those paths, it's actually just quicker to do it in Tile Inspector than any other way, so I just copied and pasted those. So that's perfectly possible to make in the traditional sense. In fact, I made the first one in the traditional sense, so not using hacks, and then I just copied and pasted them, because we've got to do that sometimes. And I wonder if I use Scenery Manager as well at some point. Scenery Manager just helps to copy and paste. You've got to be a bit careful with Scenery Manager though, because it kind of defaults to having 0 clearance on. It kind of assumes zero clearance for some funny old reason, so it will just happily build through stuff even if you have the clearances on. So if you have it in traditional Roller Coaster Tycoon mode, you can see here that I'm coming through trying to shape the environment, and I'm not using the mountain tool because the mountain tool is not our friend because it makes uninteresting mountains. It's one job. And for those who like plugins, I heartily recommend the World Shaper, the World Painter, whatever it's called, plugin by Sadrat, which I used in my building the 999 by 999 Christmas park last year, which probably came out in December of last year. Because I think I released the videos pretty much as soon as people realised that it was my advent calendar entry. But here we go. We just go through. We use the scalpel of the one tile land mover thing object tool. You can see there I'm using the tile inspector again just to raise and lower. I think I sometimes use zero clearance to raise and lower land, because if you don't have zero clearance on, it will destroy what's above it, which I don't understand. Like, why is it destroying like a roof that's like a tile clear of the ground that you're moving if you're moving the land down? So I will just slam zero clearances on to do that, because all that means is that I don't have to rebuild it. And when we are rushing towards a deadline at a truly terrifying pace, you've got to do yourselves some favours. So I guess that's up to you guys to determine, is that and still no hacks? I think it is. You can see I've done that there. I've turned zero clearances on to make sure I can lower that land without destroying all the stuff that I've put above it. Because otherwise you're just wasting time, aren't you? It is a legal technique to move that land. I'm not building it through anything. I'm just preventing myself from having to rebuild it, because the game is a little bit too conservative in that regard. Like, why is it destroying those objects? You can see here I'm absolutely blasting through building this queue. I was quite worried about this bit as it swoops down there. I was like, this just looks ugly, and see this helix around the lift hill. This little area here kind of gave me a headache until it kind of clicked. I think the thing that pushed it from being something that I'm happy with to something that I'm unhappy with to something that I'm happy with is the fact that my palette of trees was a little bit funny, and I sort of took out some of the funnier trees, and then it just went snap, straight away worked. It's funny how that works sometimes, and I thought, let's get a little pond over here. Just have something that can fill the space with something charismatic and can put you in that place. And water's really good for that. I think I do it with the path that's over on the right hand side of the screen here that I've just moved near. Oh, looks like I'm watching Bloons content, or rather listening to Bloons content. Or maybe I'm not. Maybe I've stopped listening to it because I need to lock in and put some land here. Land is very, very good at... I don't like calling things filler, because I don't think you should ever have filler. I think there's always a opportunity to do something charismatic with negative space, and that's what we really wanted there. We're kind of, inverted commas, filling that area, but we are leveraging that area to better serve our end purpose by having nice, good foliage, like I was saying in the tips video. There are no small parts. You can't be flippant about any particular part. I know that we're sort of rushing, and what I'm doing here, I had to build it with the bigger map, because if I didn't do that... Oh, whoops. Good job I saved before I did that. Because I tried to use the big land mover, and I thought that when you use cutaway, it didn't let you modify anything that wasn't part of the cutaway, but I was so wrong about that. And then I turned it into the desert map for a moment. But it actually looked pretty cool is the thing, because all the pieces were in the right place, which is why macro is really powerful. You don't have to depend on every other part of the park to work perfectly. You can just have something that works full stop. And now we're getting into the foliage, and when you don't have zero clearances, foliage can be a bit of a challenge, but challenges are part of what makes it fun. If it was easy all the time, we probably wouldn't bother. And here is a time when I probably should have just used Tile Inspector as well, but I think if I could do it quickly without using it, I think I was getting a bit Puritan about it. And this part, by the way, the competition is over now. I submitted it, obviously. You guys, I'm recording this commentary. We got the results a couple of days ago. I got 5th place. Isn't that incredible? I think I said in a video, if I got 5th place, I would be really, really happy, really, really proud. And I am. Seeing what I was up against, I am so grateful for... Oh, we're not in a time lapse anymore. I'm sure.
It is the Saturday before the Monday that we have to submit. But it being Saturday, that means I have to do a video today. And I've not done anything for this 20th anniversary video. By 20th anniversary, I mean 20th episode, not 20th year. Are you insane? Been doing this for like... What's 20 by 4? 5 months now. And here's what we have to show for it in all practicality. This will be the first thing I've released since the dawn of Fundamental Forest, using these Fundamental Forest techniques, using the Fundamental Forest bench, using the Fundamental Forest rule set. I'm really happy with this little cluster of buildings here. From what it was before, I feel like compare the thumbnails from what it was to this now. Obviously, this is looking very finished. I want to start getting peeps in, but as soon as I start editing the map edge, that'll just mess up the peep situation as well. So maybe I should just leave that until I'm more confident that we are finished with the main bits of building. Because the most frustrating part I found with having it be the accurate size it should be, that 60 by 60 size, is that you can't zoom in on the map edge. Like you can here, I can zoom in up on this bit. But when I was zooming in, when it was 60 by 60, it was putting me like here. So I could barely see this stuff up here. And we've still got a lot of work to do on that. I think for now, I'm fairly happy with the landscaping that we've got. I'm happy to move on to making that look pretty. We need to do this part over here. What are we doing in this back area? This is the question. The thing that you always want to have with landscaping, it looks like we've got to do this angle as well. It looks like a bit done. We can cover up a lot of this with foliage as well, let's not forget. Let's do a bit of that, and do a bit of that. And seeing into these holes is like a bit of a challenge, isn't it? I think we've done a really good job over here of justifying this flat ride. I think we're going to do a slightly less good job here with justifying this one. But I don't know that that's necessarily any great crime.
Just kidding, we're back into the time lapse. That was a big long chunk of video that I just basically cut out. Because I just went back to time lapse kind of building, but chatting and not really building. So there we go. Here I am doing this. I wasn't necessarily all that happy with this particular building that I did here, and you see there I'm using Tile Inspector to do the deleting, because heaven knows sometimes you have to be pixel perfect on some of these objects, and who has time for that? Certainly not me. I think it's here when I realise that a little bit of landscaping goes a long way, and a way to justify that building is to do nice landscaping. Here I am, shaping a hill. Wow, this is riveting, isn't it? And then I think, if I'm not mistaken, I begin... Oh, I'm thinking what kind of flat ride I can put in here, and I settle on a Ferris wheel, because Ferris wheels are kind of cool. And then we're going to make a nice queue. The good thing is with some of these smaller rides as well is that it doesn't need a lot of fanfare for the queue and stuff. Like if I was to put in a roller coaster there, I'd really feel like I need to get the macro of the entrance to a good spot. So like make sure it's funneling people toward it. There's no mistaking that you're heading towards a major ride.
Nobody's confused about what's going on. But with a Ferris wheel, it can pull its own weight, you know? And I just pause for a minute there. Here I am, copying and pasting a few more benches over here. Usually with like benches and stuff, you kind of want to have some sort of food court next to it. Can you hear that? That's the washing machine freaking out downstairs. You'd want a food court with benches, was what I was saying. Someone's put a brick in it, I think. Who's washing the bricks? You wash the bricks in the sink, guys. I thought we agreed this. Anyway, come and doing a bit more landscaping. And then I thought, you gotta make it look a bit crumbly. And now I'm off looking in a different direction again. It is kind of, when you're at this point in the building process, it is a little bit difficult to focus on one thing at one time, because your brain's like jumping over here from thing to thing and thinking what, and like reprioritizing and stuff, unless you like sit and tell yourself this is what I'm going to do right now, and like you've got a good plan in your head. I do find myself just jumping over the show, and here what I'm trying to do is make it so that I can cut out the corners of this building to just prevent it from being a big slab. Having it be like symmetrical like this, you might think, oh, that's awesome, that makes life easy. But I really feel like it makes the roof a difficult thing to pull off, and I tackled it different on each of the buildings have the same broad footprint. So here, let's talk about techniques to help with that situation where you've got a kind of awkward feeling building. So it's quite tall and quite thin as buildings go, because you want your monorail to be going over the top of stuff, so it kind of has to be high up. One of the things you can do is change the footprint just a little bit to help make it more broad. And the way that I thought I was going to do this, and I did and succeeded, is to just have a little building on the side, and I thought, well, let's have it be another supporting ride. So I made it car ride, just sort of like haunted house show building type situation, type beat. And I think I go back and forth with what I actually wanted. I found it really challenging to get the roof of this building to look good. I wonder if that's going to be included as part of these time-lapse elements, or I did it off camera. We're going to find out, aren't we? I have newfound respect for the people who do the commentary over the time-lapse. Maybe you have to watch the videos before you do the time-lapse. Or maybe that's just a me thing. Who knows? I think I do find it difficult to just speak endlessly. I like to shut up for the most part, and when I'm editing videos, a lot of what I'm editing is just long stretches of silence in between the things that I'm saying. And here we are, we're just trying to tackle this building. I think the way that I sorted it in the end was to have little towers poking off the side. The tower is a good technique. Was I like, I was halfway through a thought about how do we justify these taller buildings, or if you have an awkward building. One of the ways is to like attach it to another building and let the other building support that building. So part of the reason why this building exists isn't because we desperately needed a building to house that car ride. The car ride exists to support the monorail building. So it can... There's a few directions you can achieve the same results from, and people don't really question it.
they will just accept the way that you've built something. And sometimes that's frustrating because you want to communicate something and they're not going to necessarily pick up what you're trying to communicate. But I suppose that's the plight of the builder, isn't it, at all times. And I couldn't quite get this roof to pan out for me. And we're over on another side of things. We're adding in some poles to these supports. And then I think I've got to have something to hold that up on that side. I can't leave nothing. And no one really mentioned it, so I think I got away with it. But I think that is, in essence, getting away with it because it doesn't look that good. But nobody was like, what were you thinking? Why did you do that? I wonder if it's here. Yeah, I'm trying to like sort out this building. And I guess that would have looked fine, but I couldn't for the life of me get the roof to work. And I can't remember how I actually finished it up. I think I went back to having it on the corners maybe, or maybe I'll leave it like that. But I know that on the other side I had a full roof on it. But I didn't want to make them the same because it is supposed to be a bit different. But here I am, deleting all this stuff. Just making it one big roof. And I think I try and add some path onto the roof here like I have on the other side, but it's more difficult to sell over here. I just didn't like this flat section of roof in here, but I think I learnt to love it, learnt to accept it. We're adding some water in here because if you've got a bit of negative space that you don't know what to do with and you really don't want to put foliage there, a body of water works really well. There's bodies of water in parks everywhere, all sorts of places. They're really easy to justify and they are an opportunity to make something interesting. And here I am making a little garden out here for the car ride to go through. I think that this little car ride, it turned out pretty well. I was building it and I was like, this is gonna suck. But I don't know what else to do. And it sort of fended for itself pretty well, I think. Just having the little cutaways on there. It doesn't have to be all that interesting. But here we go. Now this building, which was lonely and tall over in this corner. I added in a little tower here because the big, long expanse of flatitude wasn't doing it for me. And I think later on I come in and I add another one of these little towers because just having one was a bit jarring, but as Pawn would tell you, P-A-W-N, not the other one, repetition legitimizes. There it is. If you're listening to this time-lapse, you're about to find a little bit of New Element lore. The famous music YouTuber, musician, jazz extraordinaire, Adam Neely, and you can find Adam Neely's channel by just putting in Adam Neely, used to be a builder on New Element by the name of P-A-W-N. It is a challenge to say that word in real life, very easy in text. So I will refer to him from henceforth as Adam Neely because I don't want to get my video, what do you call it, sent to the depths of Hades in terms of the algorithm. Because if you are talking about things like that, but chess videos don't get sent to the Shadow Realm, do they? Well, there you go, who knows. And I was not happy with this situation over here with all this like large expansive roof, so I thought, what better way to sort that out than with a little bit of messy foliage, which can do a lot for you. It can add that little pop of colour, it can add some contrast, and ultimately that's usually what we're after. And my strategy for that other monorail building was to just extend that building out a little bit. I imagined maybe there's some food, beverages, toilets, that sort of thing going to be in that building, so the footprint could be expanded thusly. I think you can definitely just have that, you know, fat cross footprint. I think you can have that and it can work really well, but I didn't feel like I could do that confidently or give it the room necessary for me to be able to come back with fresh eyes and see if it's working and change it if I need to change it. So I kind of had to lock in and find a different way, a more expedient way to justify it. And here I am zhuzhing up this little pond. Isn't it cute? This is quite a cute little pond. Drop in some trees. feels good to do that kind of thing. I feel like foliage is one of my strong suits, and this little hole over here was kind of worrying me as well, because I was like, it is raw and ugly, it needs something in there, and I didn't know whether it was going to be possible to put trees in there, or whether it would feel kind of funny, like why are these trees in this little ravine. But I suppose trees are just the fix-all tool. Now, some of the feedback people were giving about this top part here, which I really appreciate, the people saying what they liked and disliked about it. And one of the things they disliked was this snow part up here. For me, personally, this isn't not to... When you're receiving feedback like this, what you don't want to do is say, no, in fact... Pardon me, I do apologise. In fact, you're wrong because here's my personal justification for why I did what I did. If it didn't resonate with them, you have to let it go. It didn't work for them, and that's something you have to either learn to live with or learn to ignore. If that makes sense, you have to just accept it and move with it or without it, but you can't sit there and argue your case. But the reason why I did what I did, which is a different statement to here's why you're wrong. You are right to have the opinion that you have, that you don't think it worked, and I'm inclined to agree that it didn't work. I don't mind it, and the people saying that the map edge, they didn't like the ice along the map edge, that sort of thing doesn't bother me. So I didn't think to change it, but maybe send it to a test builder could have helped me with that beforehand. So I really value the feedback that it was Jan the Man 227. Sorry, I couldn't remember your name and I couldn't go and look it up, so I do apologise. I really appreciate that Timmy and Jan the Man live streamed like their bits of feedback on this. Great feedback those guys gave. Really kind review as well, but also they had some things that they weren't happy with. Cutting out a little corner here to help with the footprint, help retain that sort of little bit of identity it's got with that shape and not to make it a bit too boring. And I was trying to vary up the rotation of these pieces as well. But this little building sort of glued onto the side, it feels very natural, allows to get these little gardens in here as well, which really, really helped. I'm really, really happy with the way this area turned out. It felt very quiet over here compared to over on the other sides, and I'm curious as to why that is. I think just the density of the foliage pushing in quite close to the path, less gardeny type stuff here, made it feel less developed. That's not a criticism of it, that's just the vibe was different. You get what I mean? Do you understand me? Am I speaking your language? Then we're just dropping down this land here to give it a little bit of interest and a little bit of contrast. Really simple technique to get it a bit more interesting over here. Really leaning into just those fundamental aspects of doing these things to get the most power out of it and have it be a bit more varied and interesting. But what was I talking about? Good heavens. I've genuinely forgotten. Oh yeah, the stuff up on the top that people didn't like. They didn't like how sharp the transition from snow to not snow was, and I can fully get behind that. Doing some blending up to it could have really helped. The reason why it was icy up there is because in the game Hades, Olympus is covered in snow because Demeter, the goddess of seasons, has made it snowy as like a defense thing. So I was letting the game inspire me and then not bringing that justification across. So maybe what I should have done is had it not icy at all. And it didn't turn out to look that much like Olympus anyway, because I didn't develop the architecture up there. So, but that isn't necessarily a problem, because when you're on like a ride, you don't need to fully develop the part up there. You can just have the ride be like, we're up on the top of Olympus and then we're going to go down. So it's It's a funny one, and I didn't stick the landing. So those guys are really, really right about this. The game hasn't frozen. I'm just probably paralyzed with indecision on what to do. And I'm back over here now. I went over there, now I'm back over here. We're just trying to power our way through this foliage, which is what you have to do. Is this interesting? I'm not sure that it's necessarily interesting, but we're doing it because we haven't got all day. I want to eat some lunch, and I've not been doing very much Roller Coaster Tycoon this week because I did so much last week in order to finish this. We're going to be back to our regularly scheduled Fundamental Forest. We're also going to have my reaction to everybody else's amazing submissions to this contest. I can't believe I got 5th place compared to everybody else that was building. Just so. I've just been made to feel so welcome over there. For people who may have known me before, because I have obviously a long-standing presence in the New Elements side of things, and also people may have seen my YouTube videos, which I post over there, but I hadn't competed in anything. And I was made to feel very welcome immediately. People were like, "Oh, it's so awesome that you're joining in and you've submitted." So I really, really want to say thank you to everybody over there. You guys are awesome. Thank you to everybody who put the competition on, made it go. We're taking a long time to look at OBS here, and we're adding in the foliage down here. And this really, really the foliage, it just ties the room together, man. I don't know what else to say. It takes it from being like kind of good to having a lot of justification and glue and just setting the scene. Just foliage is so powerful. And isn't that strange? I kind of think that it's strange. Like, why is foliage this hugely powerful thing in this game? Is it the case just in general in real life? Does the human mind crave greenery and the outside world? I think perhaps it does. It's hard to have a map which doesn't have foliage on it, though many people have, with great success, done such a thing. But that just makes their success all the more impressive, doesn't it? But yes, thank you very, very much to Timmy Tuna and Jan the Man for live streaming their reactions to my park. It was really, really fun to jump in and hear what they had to say, and just I was smiling from ear to ear, hearing all the nice things that people were saying and seeing the scores that I got from people. Just so flattering, especially when I'm going up against such powerful, experienced people who are doing all the hacks and using all the additional pieces and all of that stuff. I'm really floored by the response. I said I would feel like I had won 1st place if I got 5th place, and then I got 5th place. I remember saying that weeks and weeks and weeks ago. I don't know whether I said it as part of the videos. So I'm smiling from ear to ear, so happy with the response that people have given. I wonder if I do my special foliage technique on the time lapse. I hope I do. I'm obviously doing all of this stuff and it's looking really cool. It's nice to combine all the angles of, that fence that's coming out here. Obviously got the angles being created by that area which is dedicated to the queue line. But then you've got the angle of the monorail coming over the top of it. So getting foliage to nestle in that corner just sends it from good to great, in my opinion. Just getting a little bit of overgrown sort of wildernessy foliage over here, because they're naturally going to be a bit less worried over on the maintenance side of things over here. It doesn't have to look good. It just needs to not be interfering with the operations of the place. And I think I put too many flowers in here, so I deleted 1 or 2 of them. It's in a much more justified place. I'm glad that everyone's finished putting their bricks in the washing machine, because that was very distracting. And it's just got an ugly chicken wire sort of fence there, which looks really cool. But here we go. Where are we going to land? Where are we going to land? Where are we going to end up? Oh, and I think I've got to put some bushes over here. It's fun watching myself frenetically jump across the map in time-lapse mode. I think in these clips, I've just got YouTube videos on, or I'm speaking to someone on FaceTime or on my phone, and we're all the way locked in. I remind myself to delete this clip. All right, we're back. I had to cut a little bit out because I looked at my Discord and I just didn't want to, reveal other people's messages that they assumed would be in private. I don't think they'd care. I don't think anything was sensitive or anything like that, but it's just, respect is not about there not being consequences. It's about being reliable and dependable and being consistently trustworthy, So here we are, we're doing the veins of the ore, like in Minecraft, and these ore veins on a human body, I suppose. And then you come in and you drop the tall trees in here. We're seeing it in action. It's not in the abstract like it was in a tutorial. And we're just trying to follow that little bit of planning. I think people can detect that it's not tree spam. Do you know what I mean? Just having that intent when you're going in and following like a curve and doing the hierarchy of the trees in terms of height. I feel like it reaches the viewer and it helps them like feel like it's a complete package, and it's almost like a secret technique that a newcomer might not be able to detect, but their like soul will detect it. Pardon me. I'm not built for time lapses, as it transpires. Speaking for a long time, I haven't even got any water. This is amateur hour. But then we're adding in some of this. These jungle bushes are really nice because they contrast quite well with the different kinds of bushes. They're a bit extra. They're a bit sort of ostentatious, but that's all right when they're blended in quite well. I don't think we could do this same technique if we didn't use the vanilla bushes and just had the jungly bushes. And we're getting those big ferns in there as well. The ferns are hard to blend in no hacks because they are full tile. But when you can do it, I really do think it adds quite a bit of personality. And we're coming in and we're just shaping these edges along here. Just trying to make sure we hit everybody's angles to make sure it's not too jaggedy. It's a good way to, because in NCSO it can be quite hard to like have something that's high grain, so like high amount of objects per tile. If you only have one object per tile, that's fairly low grain, right? And you can go even more extreme with that. You can say you can have like a 2x2 grain if you're doing like buildings and you're doing something really, really gestural. But usually it's going to be a tree per tile, a tree per tile, a piece of track per tile, that sort of thing. And you increase the grain, the more objects, the more detail you add in. So it's an easy way to add in a lot of detail with these objects because they do stack and blend really well. It'd be really hard to do this with quarter tile objects to make a building, for example, or to do stuff regarding path. There's not really the tools to do that in NCSO, but you can when you're doing a more modern CSO building, which has tiny objects, and they're really fun to stack and get in there, and you're layering this detail, and that's really awesome. And we're coming through and adding in... Oh! The time-lapse has ended. And there we have it. Thank you guys so much for tuning in today, checking this out. I hope you found this helpful for almost like humanizing the process of finishing a park. It is kind of ugly. It is kind of a panic to get to the end. So hopefully, if you guys are like a little more experienced and you're watching it, you can feel validated in that. Or if you're looking at it for the first time, you can have a realistic sort of perspective. even people who've done a lot of contest work before as part of other communities, not the DKMP. We do flounder a little bit, but it all comes together at the end. That's what you've got to remember. It's all got to come together. You've got to believe in yourself. You've got to have faith. Next week, we are going to be back to our regularly scheduled Fundamental Forest main map content. I know we've been missing that stuff for a little while, but I hope this different flavor that we've been showing off here has been informative for you guys. I know it's been informative for me, because for me to come in and finish something like this and polish it off and stuff like that, this has really allowed me to better understand my methods of park making. So in that way, I'm super glad I did it. I'm really glad for all the people who encouraged me to do it as well. Thank you guys. In the description, I'm going to be including a link to the DKMP website with the Ride Creation contest stuff on there. You need to go and check out everybody else's stuff. I'm going to be doing a video where I do my live commentary reaction to other people's stuff. That's going to be really fun, but that's going to be like an in the week sort of video. Saturdays, I'm going to try and keep as the mainline videos for Fundamental Forest. So thank you guys so much for watching. I'd really like to thank everybody who watches the video, leaves a like, leaves a comment, subscribes. It does so much to help grow this community, and it's gone a long way to help and motivate me to build, to join this contest, to, you know, throw down with these amazing builders and get such a good result for us on the first time we've entered a contest over there. I couldn't be more proud. Thank you guys so much for encouraging me through all that I'm having more fun in this hobby than I maybe ever have, and that is all thanks to you guys. Thank you so much. Next week we're back to Fundamental Forest. Expect a video about the other contestants some point in the week, and we'll catch you in the next one.